Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to day 3 of the LRVS. We're almost at the finish line. I'm here with Aaron Schultz, and Aaron has done a pre-recorded session for us today. We're going to cue that up in a minute. I would encourage everyone to look at there's a on your screen. You'll see a poll that will be taken during this presentation. We'll share the results at the end, but would encourage everyone to participate in that poll. I will, at the end of the session, if you have questions, please ask your questions. Aaron will be around to answer any questions you might have. So we'll start the video now and questions at the end. And please visit the poll and answer your, supply your answer if you would. I appreciate it. Thank you.
The following is a case study regarding the practices of adaptive planning management and the steps involved in creating a sustainable process when the attention of the organization is more committed to growth and change. Q&I, a fictional name but an actual situation, is a global leader in the brutally competitive semiconductor manufacturing market. Although Q&I has invested heavily in maintenance and reliability to stay competitive, many of these initiatives were unsuccessful. They consistently were over budget, could not deliver on their targets, and did not deliver what was originally intended, and consistently were faced with break-ins and forced shutdowns that brought concerns to the senior management team. Q&I's North American directors realized that they would have to improve Q&I's maintenance reliability and operations to thrive in the increasingly competitive landscape. Therefore, they sponsored an initiative to improve the maintenance and reliability practices within the US. This team provided maintenance support for semiconductor factory operations and implemented new projects to improve the yield, reduce the cost, enhance quality, and bring new capabilities and technologies online. Using a consolidated process, Q&I analyzed the situation and then modified the work management or the best practices to make them applicable for an organization with low planning and scheduling maturity and a culture forced on operations, not necessarily maintenance. This case study describes the analysis process and successful design of a custom work management and portfolio management techniques. It also summarized the lessons learned from the implementation and the follow-up results, as much as the project success and how it was improved. This report is especially applicable for managers who are involved in an MRO and staff who want to access and fix systematic problems that affect the entire organization, are dealing with low project maturity environment, are in a situation where operations takes priority over maintainability. The scope of Q&I's initiative described in this is covered all the factory improvement projects carried out by about 80 maintenance engineers and technical staff, including the operations, at the US Factory of Operations. Project failures in areas were evident in the executive team because they threatened Q&I's future competitiveness and profitability. Since the initiative was so visible and directly affected the work of so many people, Q&I used a 7-step process to guide them through the initiatives. The steps included validating the problem statement, defining the root cause of the process shortfalls, define the acceptable solution space, and jointly doing a design of a maintenance work management system, both in operations and maintenance, piloting that objective, refining it, tweaking it, rolling it out, and then finally assessing the results and ensuring that we have the controls in place for a sustainable success. This initiative, like most large-scale organization changes, was driven by a champion at the executive level. The executive sponsor saw the urgent business need for improving the maintenance work management and hired me as an internal consultant to guide the initiative. I've built the report from the point of view of someone who must have had a navigation of a team of people to improve the maintenance work management, specifically starting from the very low level of maintenance reliability and the operations maturity level. In other organizations, the person in the guiding role must be either an internal employee or external consultant. For convenience, I'll use the word consultant to refer to either the internal or external person in this role or the job that was done. Beginning with step 1, which is validating the problem statement. Q&I managers and team leaders first stated the problem, which was our maintenance department needs more planning experience so that the job meets the time and the scope. This led the team to prescribe a solution, which was training classes for the problems and the systems of job failures. But unfortunately, they didn't really understand the root cause of it. In Q&I's situation, it posed two big dangers. First, the prescribed solution may be wrong based on the incomplete understanding of the problem. Without understanding the root cause of why the planned jobs fails, they were in real danger of implementing a solution that did not solve the real problem. Treating symptoms is a dangerous business because it means the problem hasn't gone away. The root cause will continue to grow and ultimately create more. The second is, as the quality pioneer Edward Demings pointed out, most quality problems are system problems that individuals cannot solve alone. Therefore, just giving individuals new skills via training may completely ignore vital system problems. Thus, before doing anything else, validate that the problem statement is correct. A few hours here can save and unfold grief later. In Q&I's case, asking the key individuals why different processes had been unsuccessful quickly revealed that there was more profound and systematic problems that were merely a lack of education in the best practices in different systems. Therefore, the management team agreed to participate in a root cause assessment before continuing further in the solution space. When conducting interviews, there's some tips to whom to interview and select the right people. Typically, a sample size between 8 to 15 people gives a good perspective of the current situation. You want to include people from a variety of the organizational level. Include some people from other parts of the company. Moving on to step 2 is determining the root cause. With a good problem statement in hand, proceed to find the root cause of the problem. There are 3 steps to this. 1 is interview the right people. Look at the past practices in the process. Analyze the raw data, interviewing the right people. The most fruitful and sometimes neglected method of gathering relative information is simply to talk with a sample of people who do the maintenance. Most maintenance workers have an inkling of root causes, and although they may not be able to articulate them, the consultant can give much relevant information by asking the right question. One-on-one interviews are the richest source of assessment of information, even though they lack the formality and structure of a survey instrument. I get a lot of helpful information from them because they are a high bandwidth, interactive, flexible, and I can steer the conversation on the spot to follow promising leads and tidbits of information. Prepare carefully before a one-on-one interview. Select the right people to interview. Have it done in advance. Create 3 to 5 open-ended questions that spark discussion and give insight into what's going on. Limit the number of interviews in a day because they are draining for the interviewer. Using good interview techniques during the interview. Ask many probing questions. For example, by using 5 why techniques. In this technique, the interviewer probes successfully deeper into the underlying factors behind each answer by asking the question, why? Other things you can do is listen intently. Stay out of the solution space and resist jumping to premature conclusions. Take good notes on all the conversations so you can affiliate and analyze the data later. I prefer writing notes and do not find recordings to be that helpful. Look at the artifacts. Use the information from one-on-one interviews to direct or examine the artifacts from past or current processes. Also, look at project management process documentation such as the description of the flowchart of the project and management processes. This could be value stream maps. Artifact reviews are primarily spot checks of the interview observation because they're the most helpful information in what the people do, not what they write down in a formal documentations. Interview and artifact reviews were the primary methods of gathering assessment information on Q&As. Surveying, facilitating group discussion, and observations of team meetings may be helpful in other situations. Analyze. Finally, analyze all the information about how the organization manages work and distill it into a summary of the primary problem and opportunity. I usually have 50 to 100 pages of notes and observations by this point. So distilling this information in a concise summary is challenging. I find that following approach to work well. Taking the raw observations into creating categories, then arranging the organizations into these categories and analyzing them from indications of the systematic problem. Draw a fishbone and a cause and effect diagram to clarify the real causes driving the problem, and summarize conclusion into concise description of the gaps and opportunity. This process of determining root cause uncovered 6 major problem areas and 20 minor problem areas in Q&I. The 6 major problem areas were, beginning with, they were having ad hoc job plannings. They were just planning as needed. infrequent or subjective priorities. Management didn't prioritize the work and said no many times for some of the scheduled work. They had difficulty managing urgent interruptions from ongoing factory operations. Unclear roles and responsibilities and the accountabilities regarding the projects and who was leading it and completing it. A culture of firefighting. Step 3 is define the solution space. The root cause analysis clearly shows that Q&I had a low work management maturity. Q&I not yet achieved the level 1 on Kisner's maturity scale. There was not a common language or protocol regarding jobs and tasks, although few individuals knew about work management principles from past work or outside education. Individual jobs were on their own to figure out how to define, plan, and execute their work, so that most jobs were ad hoc with no cumulative or reuse. At the organization level, the only processes and forms related to the work schedules were focused on corporate approval, reporting, and financial management. If you revert to Kisner's project management maturity level 2E is a reasonable long-term target for Q&I. Given its low maturity level, Q&I's managers selected 4 ground rules to guide the design of the project management solution. Consider the whole system. In maturity level 1, nearly everything is ad hoc. There is no common language, no systematic way of doing priority projects. Therefore, any solution must address the need of the whole system, even if it is straightforward. Second is to simplify is king. When the target of the organization is at a low level of maturity, the initial solution must emphasize simplicity. In the environment, changing the culture and the people's behavior is a bigger problem or bigger concern than the technical purity of the project management techniques that was to be introduced. Antibodies will attack. Making business processes change in a low maturity environment will provoke resistance. In medical terms, the antibodies will come out to attack the perceived invaders. The initiative will fall out without buy-in and ownership, and no matter how technical elegant the solution is. End users must feel long-term ownerships of the solution, and it must be their own system, not a preferable methodologies that are outside brought in. For this reason, key influencers from the Q&I used commonly, even opponents had significant input and involvement in the entire process. For example, Q&I created a core team to oversee the system design and implementation. The core team was composed of people who often led or participated in projects. And step 4 is jointly designing the adaptive planning management system. So next, the core steering team prioritized which of the work management problems to focus on first, being careful not to try to do too much at once. Then the team created an implementation roadmap that showed how the solutions to each problem would be implemented. The roadmap showed the balances of gaining quick, high visible wins with making long-term fundamental improvement. In keeping with the simplicity of the ground rules, it emphasizes a vital few project management areas: the definition, planning and training, and escalation. Following the agreement of the roadmap, the core team co-designed the elements of Q&I's new work management system. The co-design concept was critical to satisfying the ground rules about the long-term ownership. In this case, co-design means that the detailed design of work management techniques and tools were done as a partnership between the consultant and the user. The role of the consultant was to spark ideas by bringing knowledge of best practice, a toolbox of maintenance management techniques, and the ability to guide and teach. The users brought a deep understanding of the business and the group unique culture. The resulting Q&A management system has 6 major components. First, it was a 4-phase long system, provides a simple and memorable framework for everyone else to fit into. The 4 phases are to design, plan, execute, and close. Permanent gates with control checklist gates the start of each phase. The checklist specifies a simple set of conditions that must be met to exist from the preceding phase. Parallel means that the project manager and project sponsor can agree to the start of the next step before the prior stage is complete. They do this by documenting the expectations of the gate checklist, what actions that they will take to resolve the promptly. And permanent gates increase flexibility and allow Q&I's project personnel and select a concurrently level appropriate to the various project types and sizes. The system clearly defines the vital roles, and especially the manager and the sponsor roles. Before initiating, these concepts existed at Q&I's only in a fuzzy way. An overall work management process keyed to these 4 phases specifies both required and optional work management activities. In keeping the simple ground rules, the Q&I work management process emphasizes just 1 to 2 major project management activities in each phase. The primary documentation is a user-friendly flowchart posted as a toolkit. Described 5 was a web-based toolkit provides instructors, templates, and components real-world Q&I examples of each required and optional project management activities. Everything is written in a simple, non-technical language that avoids or explains technical terms. This helps part-time accidental project managers. A simple project governance system established forms and protocols for progress reports, project reviews, gate approvals, and issued escalation. In contact, basic project systems techniques help management prioritize projects and analyze resource capabilities at a high level. Moving on to steps 5 and 6, which is the pilot and the rollout. Q&I identified 7 projects to use as a pilot for the new project management system. Some of these projects were new, while others were already in progress. The core team managed each of these projects using the latest work management system, turning the new processes and toolkits as they received feedback from the pilot. Q&I did a broader rollout to encompass more projects and people once the pilots were completed. The rollout had several methods, beginning with an instructor-delivered focus training through a 2-day workshop. Now, the individuals and departments liked this and saw the promising to it, and they requested more people for this training. The training had 2 purposes. One is to general educate about the project management, brought everyone to a minimal level of common language and understanding the fundamental technique. And specific training taught how to use the Q&I's processes and tools. The second, the work management expert coached, maintained leader, the project team members, and managers on the project. The toolkit was posted on Q&I's internet, allowing self-service and usage. Executive sponsors stepped up the level of the support by raising expectations and accountability by using the new Q&I's process and tool. This is the lessons learned. We learned 8 major takeaways during this implementation. Maintenance work management will always be secondary. Q&I's Silicon Factories mix project-based work with a support of 24/7 mission-critical operations. Operations always trumps maintenance in this environment. Work management must fit into the workspaces around the ongoing operation. Make sure the solution improves everyone's job so that it stays powerful. Otherwise, it's just another management fad. Use participated design and implementation techniques to get a widespread buy-in and involvement. Find ways to get users' fingerprints all over the solution so they have a sense of ownership. Design for quick wins. Get at the least some immediate and apparent victories so the organization does not lose interest. Organizational change takes more time, effort, and buy-in than you expect. The designers of the work management process must take systems view, not just a create point, tool, or technique. Technology comes last. Spend most of the design time deciding how the people, the process, and the organizational aspects of the project will work. Software and technology play a supportive role and come later. Bringing specific software in too early threatens to shift the focus to the software's capabilities rather than how to solve the user's problem. Solid and long-lasting executive sponsorship is required. You simply cannot succeed without. Q&I's executive sponsor was persistent and led by example and employed gentle coaching and firm accountability. The assessment and the result. The initiation took about 15 months from the beginning of step 1 of validating the problem to the completion of step 6, which is the rollout. Almost a year after the rollout was complete, Q&I's executive sponsors assessed the progress and reported to the following result. Knowledge of work management techniques is widespread and the best practices are being used. More jobs and project planning is successful. Over 2 years, delayed work were reduced by 45% and on-time completions nearly doubled. Many projects now have Q&I's charters that are clearly define the project's business value and the expected deliverables. The status of work is more visible to the supervisors and managers. Progress reports are available for most jobs and projects. Communication between maintenance and the rest of the business has improved because the simplified progress reports and communication form. Other US groups have gotten involved and the interest has grown internationally. As an endpoint, Q&I is competitive in the fast-moving, cost-sensitive, global line of business. It will stay competitive only if it frequently upgrades the semiconductor technology's capabilities it can offer to its customers while simplifying improving quality and reducing costs. Successful adaptive planning management is a business imperative because they are the engine of Q&I uses to design and implement the vital fab upgrades and processing improvements. Q&I tackled this challenging using a 7-step approach to determine the root cause of the systematic jobs and job failures, design appropriate solutions for their operations-oriented environment, and then widely rolled out a new work management system. The two factors significantly shaped the initiative. First, Q&I fab operations runs 24/7, so operation will always trump PM and work requests. Second, jobs run ad hoc, and the organization's job management maturity was at the lowest level. Both of these factors have the need for simplicity and low overhead. The project focused on collaborating, building a system of simple but effective planning and scheduling techniques. A key goal was to give a widespread and sense of ownership to the ultimate users of the system, the maintenance staff, team members, and the technical management team. The initiative was successful, with on-time project completion nearly doubling over 2 years. We learned even proven project management techniques must be contextualized, sometimes almost beyond the point of recognition to fit the specific environment where it is being used. A system perspective and participation design techniques are essential for building a long-term adoption.
Aaron, well, that was interesting. So a very, very complex topic, but you did a great job in summarizing and kind of laying out the foundation for how that process works. So I know some of the there's a poll that was taken. I believe you have the results. Can you see those?
I can see those, and it looks like there's a balance between if it's not broken, we don't fix it. And we are consistently reviewing our processes and finding ways to improve. So the interpretation I get of that is there's some cultures that are working toward evolving more, and there's others that they've got some strong sustainable processes in place on that.
Right.
In this study here, of course I can't necessarily disclose the name of the company, but they struggle with maturity. And at the end of the day, we decided that while we all are professionals, especially in a lot of the maintenance and reliability industry, it was not going to rule the organization. And we had become adapted to that and understand to that. And one of the ways of doing that is being transparency, having a good flow of communication between the operation and maintenance, and then working with them to strive for improvement. And in this particular case, it had positive results. But certainly none of it would work if there's not senior leaderships involved and their commitment to change and improvement.
Yeah. In this poll, I look at it and I think, one answer really doesn't preclude the others. I almost feel like I could check in certain situations, I could check every one of those boxes for my company. So just an interesting observation. We do have one question from Ahmed. He's asked how long the first 4 phases will take to reach further steps in a manufacturing company with 50 employees. 50 employees.
Certainly it's about understanding the maturity of it. I am Ed, by the way. And I certainly you roll out a plan, but anywhere from 9 to 12 months before you start making some headway on adaptive change.
Right. All right. Well, that is it for questions. We've got a little extra time, and unless there's anything else that you have, we've got about 4 minutes to get to the next track. If anybody has an answer, I'd say, or a question, ask it really quick. Or any closing words or comments from you, Aaron?
Yeah, in this particular study, it was I had not worked in a semiconductor facility up to this point. Much of it has been in the consumables, food processing, and in the oil and gas industries. But remarkably, similar processes on communication fold into alignment on that. So certainly there's a lot of 7 steps that are out there in the world today, 5 steps, 3 steps. But in this particular case, it was customly designed to go after what they wanted, which was bringing in a sustainable process on that. And being adaptive to some of that change certainly led down to the right avenue on that. So that's certainly it's something that's I've got a passion for that, and I think that simplicity is king on this. And while there's great tools on this, we found that the most effective was just interviewing and building communication plans, and something that the people in the workforce could grab onto as far as owning the process on it. And that's what led to a lot of that success. But yeah.
Hey, one quick follow-up question from Ned. How many companies have implemented adaptive maintenance planning, or is it still a research process or research?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably still a research process. Ahmed, you're part of my interview process on one of the books I'm working on. So I'm certainly in the research stage on it.
All right, we got a publication on its way. When is that going to be ready for everybody?
It's still in the works, and it's probably don't look for another year plus maybe.
Okay, all right, real good. Well, hey, appreciate everybody. Aaron, thank you so much for the presentation. I appreciate everybody attending. You've got about 2.5 minutes or so to get to the next track. So enjoy I think that will be the last session of the day. Enjoy it.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Greg.